The Mortal Kombat series is one of my favorite fighting game franchises of all time. Honestly, it's one of my favorite gaming franchises, period. I actually started during the PS2 era with games like Deadly Alliance, and then moving on to Deception, Shaolin Monks, and finally Armageddon. And ever since then, I have been pretty much playing every single Mortal Kombat that has ever been released. These have gotten really messy when it comes to the plot of Mortal Kombat. Characters like Kronika and the constant resetting of the timelines have made the story feel convoluted. The universe has been rebooted multiple times and it still somehow feels very hard to follow. Personally, I think Mortal Kombat is at its best when the story is simple and focused. Is there a tournament? Who is the big bad? Or sometimes the plot revolves around villains trying to summon a powerful god, an elder god, a evil monster such as Shinnok or Onaga. Those stories worked because the stakes were clear and the villains were a lot easier to follow. Are we stopping an invasion from Outworld? Is someone trying to summon this ancient evil? These are stakes that are way easier for the player to understand and get invested in. And in my opinion, it's a lot easier for them to build and center a tournament around and figure out who's going to be in the tournament. Number two, make your characters feel like threats again. Another major issue in Mortal Kombat to me has been the way characters have been portrayed. So for example, take Kotal Kahn, introduced in Mortal Kombat 10 as a successor to Shao Kahn, but instantly turned into a jobber, which is a wrestling term for characters that constantly lose. In his debut, he's defeated by Kung Jin. He's then defeated by Jade in MK11. He gets crippled by Shao Kahn at the end of MK11 and then killed. This creates a problem where the Emperor of Outworld and successor to a character like Shao Kahn somehow feels less threatening than some of his underlings and supporting characters. Back in the day, characters like Shao Kahn felt like a mountain you had to climb. He was the final boss for a reason, but he's also suffered this as well. His role has been shrunken so badly that he's now just a general in the main story, no longer a major villain for Liu Kang and the crew to defeat. And when the major villain who could conquer realms and his successor are defeated by regular people in the main world, it makes them feel less dangerous and the major villains in the whole world less dangerous. Another perfect example is Mortal Kombat X, when Johnny Cage somehow manages to beat both Scorpion and Sub-Zero at the exact same time. Moments like that make villain characters in the moment feel like cannon fodder more than actual threats. If Mortal Kombat wants a story to feel serious again, the villains need to be taken seriously. Part 3 is going to keep characters consistent. Another issue Mortal Kombat has, in my opinion, is character consistency. Characters' motivations and desire can be completely changed at the drop of a hat. A perfect example of this is Sindel. In older games like Mortal Kombat 3, Sindel was portrayed as a tragic queen who had been resurrected and manipulated by Shao Kahn. Her resurrection allowed Outworld to invade Earthrealm, but later games retconned her story. And if you're a major fan of that character and you've been following her storylines through the PS2 games to the 3D games, this just feels like kind of a slap in the face. Someone who cares about Sindel and cares about the lore of the major story, seeing her betray Katana like that and claim that she has always been evil never stuck with me and never really made sense to me. Now I want to talk about customization. This is kind of more for the nitpicks of the game, but in general, Mortal Kombat really needs to figure out what they want to do with gear. Either fully commit to it or simplify it, because it just feels like they're just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks. MK11 first brought the gear system in where you could customize multiple pieces of equipment for each character, but sometimes those gear pieces barely change the actual appearance of the character visually. We're talking about things like grenades or back pieces of equipment or something tiny like a belt buckle. Things that in the actual motion of a match you're not going to notice. Meanwhile, certain characters got their hats changed, got new masks, which were better visual outfits. And then the actual outfits that you get, in my opinion, have been pretty rigid and bland compared to other fighting games like Street Fighter or Tekken. I think that was something that Mortal Kombat has been trying to work on and improve. If you look at like MK11, a lot of people complained about how like Sonya or Cassie or Jackie or Cage or even Jax look like kind of like generic Call of Duty characters as opposed to interesting Mortal Kombat characters. The newer game MK1 slightly improved on that, but I still feel like A lot of this goes back to them changing the kind of aesthetic and feel of the games. And in my opinion, that kind of messed up the franchise. In my honest opinion, I think Mortal Kombat is at its strongest when it's more martial arts and less modern. I don't really think Mortal Kombat needs characters in big suits and big, fun, modern Brazil outfits. Give us more gis, more traditional ninja attire. I think that's what people want and that's what people care about. But if you can at least just keep like the MK1, MK2, MK3 outfits for the male and female ninjas, I do think that's something that people would like and would like to see in the game. Another thing I want to bring up is how Mortal Kombat can improve the single player experience in the games. One thing Mortal Kombat has always done well was single player content. We've had the Crypt, we've had Challenge Towers, we've had Conquest Mode in the past, and their most recent movie like storylines, in my opinion, which were some of the best in fighting games, period. These mode gave us a lot of things to do outside of competitive matches and playing rank with our friends forever. Mortal Kombat tried something new with the Invasions mode, but it did not resonate. In my opinion, it felt repetitive and grindy. Meanwhile, we have modes like Conquest from the PS2 era, which are still very fondly remembered, and I think Mortal Kombat might benefit from that switch up. So if you don't really remember Conquest Mode, Combat Deception, where you played as Yujinko, and it was a open world, somewhat RPG type of experience where you could travel and visit all the different realms with a character, train under different people, and actually get to see what the realms felt like. And that adds so much as a fan, being able to be in the Chaos Realm and see how crazy it is, to go to the Nether Realm to see how terrible and horrible it is. It adds a lot to the world and it makes me feel a lot more immersed in caring about your world when I actually can participate in it. And this has been done. And recently, Street Fighter 6 actually launched with their World Tour mode, which is basically a spiritual successor to the Conquest mode. It allowed you to create a character and you could travel all through Metro City and meet different Street Fighters. You can train the Ryu, you can meet the new characters like Manon, even DLC characters like Mai Shiranui and Terry Brogard, you could meet and train under in a bunch of different environments that fit in the Street Fighter universe. I would love something like that to actually happen again in Mortal Kombat because I think the Mortal Kombat world is just as interesting. At the end of the day, I am just a guy that loves Mortal Kombat. I love their characters. I love their world. I love participating and being in that fandom. But I do think there are some things that Mortal Kombat can improve on. And with a new game coming in the next few years, I really do hope that Mortal Kombat stops and kind of goes back to the basics to see and remember what made Mortal Kombat such a standout franchise in the first place. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below.